Hello everyone, my name is Nikhil Muka. Welcome back to this channel. In this video, we will discuss share transfer if account holder dies without appointing nominee. Shares transfer by way of death is termed as transmission of shares. The word transmission implies transmission by operation of law. It is a type of transfer in which the claimant has to prove to the authorities that he is the rightful owner of the shares. Generally, one of the common mistakes that a shareholder makes is to neglect the name of a nominee in their share documents, which results in complicated paperwork when a claim is made. Nowadays, it becomes mandatory to mention the name of the nominees in case of opening a demat account. It is further imperative to mention that without any nomination, the shares will remain unclaimed for a number of years, hence leading the company to transfer them to the IEPF funds. Therefore, to avoid any further complexities in the documentation process and to avoid indulgence of IEPF authority, it is required that the documents of the shares shall include the nomination. Now, we will discuss how the shares are to be transmitted in different cases when there is no nomination. The first case is when one of the joint holders becomes deceased. In that case, the first preference will be given to the surviving joint holder. The second case is when both of the joint holders becomes deceased. In that case, the shares will be transferred to the nominee or the legal heirs or the legal representative. The third case is when there is no nomination. In that case, the transfer will occur according to the will or the legal testament. The fourth case is when there is no will. In that case, the transfer will take place according to the other legal documents determining the legal ownership of the original shareholder. Generally, at the time of death of a shareholder, it becomes imperative for the banks or the financial institutions who are in charge of the transmission of shares to check all the first-hand documents to determine the rightful owner of the shares. Therefore, the first document that the depository participant will ask in case of no nomination is the will of the deceased holder. Will provide the depository participant with a precise picture of how the assets of the deceased shareholders are to be managed. If the deceased individual had prepared the will, the subsequent steps would become simple after ironing out a few details. Further, when there is more than one individual in the will, classifying who will receive what percentage of stake in the shares will be a matter of legal interest, and therefore the involvement of the court will be required to resolve this problem by way of verdict. Now we will discuss what are the documents required when there is no nomination. In case of the joint holder, the surviving partner of the joint holder will acquire first preference over the shares. Therefore, the surviving holder shall present the original or copy of death certificate along with the original share certificate. In case of shares held singly, the documents that are required to be filed are transmission request form, original share certificate, original death certificate or a copy of death certificate duly attested by a notary public or a gazetted officer, copy of death certificate attested by the legal heirs and nominees, copy of self-attested permanent account number, copy of birth certificate in case the legal heir, nominee and the claimant is a minor, a certificate for claim and identity of ownership duly notarized by all legal heirs on judicial stamp paper of appropriate value. In case of a will, probate of a will, succession certificate, the legal heir administration and legal heir certificate with duly notarized affidavit from such legal heir, copy of succession certificate, probate of will, court decree, letter of administration, will and legal heir certificate along with a duly notarized indemnity bond from all legal heirs or claimants where the value of securities held are up to Rs 5 lakh and up to Rs 15 lakh. The following documents can be filed along with the other documents. No objection certificate from all legal heirs duly attested by a public notary, duly notarized indemnity bond made on non-judicial stamp paper of appropriate value. Now we will discuss what is the process of transfer of share. First situation is if the shares are held in demat account. In that case, the joint holder of the shares, the nominee or legal representatives of the deceased has to make a transmission request at the depository participant. The depository participants will then call for the necessary documents, and after careful examination of the documents, the depository participant will initiate the transfer in the name of the claimant. Second situation is if the shares are held physically. In that case, the deceased shareholders account company shall be approached for the transmission of shares. After careful examination by the company of the necessary documents, the company will then transfer the share in the claimant's name. For more such update, please subscribe to the channel.